and today I'm doing another girl talk video, and I have my boo bag, Mariah.
Hey y'all.
And today we're going to be talking about racism. So, what's just like your general like feeling about like racism in today's society?
Oh.
Like your overall opinion about it.
First of all, I hate racism. Mm-hmm. I feel like racism is like everywhere we go. Everything that we do, there's like racism. Like,
you mean like within like what? Like, can you elaborate? Like within relationships, within family, friends, just people, work.
Work, where we go shopping, how we raise our kids, school, man, and everything that we do. And
do you feel like you've ever been victim to racism?
Yes.
In what way?
Number one, I am mixed. I am Hispanic and Black. So, okay, I'm gonna give you a good example. I was walking down the street one day, and this guy, he stops me. He's like, "Hey, hey, I like your hair. You're really pretty." And I'm like, "Thank you." And he was Hispanic. I was like, "Okay, thank you, or whatever." And I kept walking. He's like, "Can I ask you something?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you mixed with something?" And I'm like, normally I don't really like to answer that question just because it doesn't make a difference. Like,
yeah.
why if you're Black, why can't you just be Black and pretty? Why do you have to be mixed with something? Why do you have to be, you know? And I was like, why? And then this lady that was walking behind him. We were in Vegas, so it was like, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
She's like, this white lady stopped and talked to me. She's like, why does it matter if she's mixed? He's like, well, I was just asking. So we keep walking. He's persistent. He's like, well, can I ask if you're mixed, like who's Hispanic or who's the other one?
Oh, so he wants to know like if your dad is Black or your
And I said, you know what, my dad is Black, my mom is Hispanic, and I'm proud of who I am, and I'm Black at the end of the day. And I turn around, and then he goes, dang, so your dad was a player. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why? So basically, my whole point of that story was people think like, oh, you got one up if you're mixed, or you get one up if you got, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's stupid.
Or they like judge you if you're not, or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it also goes into play, like when it comes down to that, like your family, like also gets involved in that too, because I feel like a lot of the times, if I'm a Black woman but I like a white man, that is what I choose, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my family chooses that for me as well. Like every parent has like seen like, okay, well my son to marry a Black woman, this and that, and he come in with little Sally, and she's like, okay, I mean we have to accept it, but I think a lot of times like the racism comes from like everyone not being as open-minded as that person. So although, you know what I mean, like I may have been open-minded in our generation to be like, oh, I don't really see nothing wrong with being with a white man, this and that. My granny may be like, you know what, in my history and growing up, especially because my granny's from the South, and seeing past like her great-granny being a slave and things like that, it's almost like automatic for her to be racist towards white people. You know what I mean? It's almost like something that was embedded in her. And although our generation has changed, and we've seen a Black president and we've seen everything like that, it doesn't take away from when she was growing up the things that she saw white people do to Black people. You know what I mean? And even now, as much as we try to say, oh, Granny, it's changed, it's not the way it is, not the way it is, and then we have things happening like that just happened with the Confederate flag, and people just not too long ago, a like Black man was beat in Pasadena by police. You know what I mean? For no reason.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So you know how you mentioned us having a Black president. Do you think that made us like that got us ahead? Like, oh, we're really making changes here, or do you think that was kind of like that kind of messed with our heads to make us think that we're really getting ahead? Because once I just feel like so much stuff happened when we had Obama as president.
It was for our younger generation. It was for our young men to see that
you can do it.
You can do anything that you want to do. And although it may have been some politics behind, oh, we're going to let you think that you're winning type thing. Because remember, at the end of the day, although it was such a milestone for Black history, at the end of the day, the president is still a puppet. He's still just somebody who's on the front line. So although it's good to see that, you know what I mean, oh, you know what, a Black man was president, then I can do anything too, we also have to remember that it's which Black man was president. Because if we get a coon in there, or somebody who's like, you know what I mean, an undercover hater, an undercover person, so we get somebody like that in there, our world would have been completely different. If Obama would have fooled us like, oh, we about to think we voting for him only because he Black, and then he get in there and he's like, yeah, all Black people are gonna die. Like, what? Like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, or, oh, you guys are all this and that. Where I'm thankful for his presidency and the way that he carried himself. But again, I felt like that was really for our younger generation to show them. Our young kings, like, you can do anything that you want to do. You can, you know what I mean? It's all about, like, morals and the way that you're brought up within your family. And I feel like for him, anything that I've seen on TV, his history, he was brought up right. And kudos to his mom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he never, even though if they were probably telling him, oh, you better say it like this, you better say it like that, he kept his integrity, he kept his morals, he kept what he believed, although he had a job to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so I definitely think that it was definitely a milestone, but we still have a lot of work to do.
As far as, like, racism goes, especially now with, like, social media, I honestly feel like sometimes, like, with our culture and stuff, like, like now, like, I mean, Instagram and all that's popping, especially, like, Thanksgiving, like, Christmas holidays, we all celebrate, like, as black people, like, I feel like we kind of almost all do the same thing, like Thanksgiving, you know, we have all the things, stuff like that. Do you think that, like, now with, like, social media stuff, like, they make up, like, I'll say white people or other races, they make like a mockery of, like...
If you really think about it, it's always been that way. Down from sports, down to acting, down to every single thing that we do. They're not laughing with you.
We over here entertaining y'all.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's always been that way. So for them to call us out like, oh, what are you guys gonna have? Collard greens? What are you gonna... Yes, I sure am. Because that's our culture. And I feel, honestly, like, a lot of times racism comes from jealousy. It comes from them not having their own traditions. You know what I mean? Them not having their own things. Even with Hispanics, they be cooking their tamales. They get their granny together. They do that. You know, they have their own, like, culture, and they have their own background, and they have everything else. So I feel like sometimes it comes from a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of envy.
What would you think would take, like, to end racism? Like, I mean, that's like a never... That's
you know what? I feel like the more we say it's never going to end, it's never going to end. It's almost like a person who's, like, depressed. Oh, my God, I'm so sad, I'm so sad, I'm so sad. It's like, yeah, you're so sad because you're claiming that. You know what I mean? So it will take a lot. You know what I mean? It would definitely take a lot to change every heart. Nobody's going to... I don't think... It's hard to say. Like, I just don't think that it can definitely not happen overnight. But I truly believe that... I hope that one day we do get to a place where we don't have to watch over our back or, you know what I mean, kind of make our children feel a certain type of way. I feel like it does start with, like, how you're teaching the younger generation as we go on. Is social media helping? Is, like, what is really continuing the cycle?
I'm going to give you an example. For instance, you know, my mom is Hispanic, so... Me, I've always, like out of all my siblings, I've always been like pro-black. I've always, I still to this day, I've taken my kids to almost all the black museums out of state. If not, I go by myself. You know, I try to, like, when it comes to, like, being a black and having culture, that's my main thing. Not to say I don't enjoy being Hispanic, but I do relate more to just being a black woman. Like, I will say, if someone asks me, I will say black.
And you know what? Society will do that as well. Because if you're a white woman and you have a baby with a black man and it's a little boy or whatever, this and that, the society is going to view him as a black man.
Right.
It is not to take away the fact that he's also mixed, but it's just to say that systematically, what it is like, okay, you're gonna be considered that. Unfortunately, it's not like, oh, okay, well, he's mixed over there. How you doing?
You know what your daddy is?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's just what it is. So it's not to say that you're taking away from you being him. Not even like, you know, you love your mom, you love her culture, but at the end of the day, if somebody sees you, they're like, oh yeah, she black. You know what I mean? Like, it's just what it is. But
my mom used to always tell me, like, I don't know what it's like to be black, and I will never understand. Like, you know, I can't because I'm not black.
Yeah.
But I appreciate. I'm glad that you found this is who you are. This is your identity. So that's good that
that's really amazing.
She's always been that way, like, very supportive, and she's like always ready for me for me doing that for my kids. So, like, you know, her being in a biracial relationship and having biracial kids, she's always dealt with, like, either the side eye from... She's actually gone to a fist fight with a girl because this lady had went up to her and was like, you think you cute because you with one of our men. And my mom was like, what are you talking about? You know? And then that ended up being one thing. So she's gotten hate from all sides. But luckily, I come from a family from, like, both sides of my family that are pretty all understanding, open. Like, they don't view us like, oh, them as a black kid. The black kids is coming over. Like, it's always just been, we're family.
Yeah, that's really, really good.
And when I used to go spend the night at my Hispanic side of the family, my grandmother's house, like, I used to love spending the night with her. And she would be like, oh, let's watch this. And she's the one who put me on Game on Roots. Shaka Zulu, all that.
Oh, great. It was really good.
I knew about all that. at a young age because of her, and it
Yeah.
wasn't like, this is what you guys been through, because my grandma used to always tell me too, like, you know, this wasn't, you guys were always just, like, black people just weren't always slaves. Like, there's more to your history, and I never understood that, like, what is she talking about? And as I got older, then they make the Hidden Color movies, and then I was able to understand and break it down to my kids, you know?
That's really good, and I think that would help, because it's like, you're not born racist, you're taught racism.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if you're taught at a young age to just love everybody and really just keep continuously instilling that into the kids, into the generation, then I feel like it will come a time where we're all just going to be one big melting pot, and hopefully one day we won't see color. But it's really, really hard, because you do have some kids who do see race rivals on social media, and there's no age limit for social media. So, I mean, you can say it all day long, but really it could be anybody on there.
Anybody. You could be
and if you see people on there making videos like, oh, I hate black people, this and that, and a kid sees that and he goes to school and he's like, hey, you're black, I hate you, you know, without even knowing like really where that stems from and what it means to have hatred in your heart for someone, you know what I mean? So I feel like, yeah, there will come a time where hopefully we won't have to worry about that.
How do you feel about racism like in the workplace?
That's like for real a whole topic. Like, for me, I feel like the jobs that I've held, it's been more sexism over racism, but there definitely is racism in the workplace. But I feel like it only comes into play where we're trying to advance and we're trying to get ahead, and they pick Sally over Keisha, you know what I mean?
And you'd be like, what?
Yeah, but at the same time, I really am kind of mixed between that, because I really like, so there's a lot of times that I see that black women think that they're supposed to get certain things. Like, I was working before at the bank, and I remember it was like kind of like that same thing. 2 people were up for the same position, and they picked someone else, and the black girl was like, oh, heck no, we'll do this and that. And I'm like, girl, you don't never show up on time. You this, you that. So I feel like sometimes we have to kind of catch ourselves, because we have this like entitled, like, oh, because I'm black and I came to work. That's not enough. You don't need to just come to work. You need to show yourself.
If we want to be treated like eagles, we got to act like eagles.
You have to, and you can't act like you're just victim because you're a race. Like, oh, they treated me like that because I'm black. Oh, they act like that because I'm black. It's like, yes, that is a thing, but at the same time, like, show out and prove that that's not what you want to be. You know what I mean?
Because
come early, leave late. You know what I mean? Really put in the effort.
I get it, but then I'm kind of biased on that, because it's like, why do we gotta overly prove ourselves to get that position or to do all that? Why, if Sally ain't gotta do all that, and she could just come to work her regular time and leave at her regular time, take her lunch whenever she wants to, get her little sick days or whatever, why is it that because I'm black, I gotta be like overly prove myself? And I think that's another problem that we have as a black as a whole, because we always feel like we gotta prove a point.
But see,
we shouldn't have to prove a point.
But I don't feel like that's on black people that we have to prove a point. I don't feel like within our community we feel like that. I think that society puts that on us, that we have to do that.
I'm gonna be I'm gonna be myself wholeheartedly. So I'm not gonna like, I don't feel like I have to, I'm gonna just be who I am. And if you can't accept me for who I am, as far as like going over and beyond or feeling like I'm the typical whatever, or I do articulate my words if I'm in a workplace, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, what's up?
No, it's not even about you,
so,
though.
Yeah.
It's not about your character. It's not about my character. Yeah. It's about that person's persona and their view on black people. So it's not about like me feeling like, oh my God, I better hurry and do this for this person and be a kiss ass. It's about overall, in the workplace and outside of the workplace, we have to work as a people twice as hard. You know what I mean? So yeah, you very well could come in on time, leave on time, do this and that. But at the end of the day, it's about how that person views you, and that's the fucked up part. That's the part that's like that needs help. That's the part that needs like reconstruction, because it doesn't matter what you do. And even for me, I could be busting my ass coming late and still doing this and still get past that, because it's that person. You know what I mean? But that you even have black people in power that once they work so hard to get up and now they're in power, now they don't want to help the next person. You know what I mean?
See, I think that's a main. I know that's the main thing that we do to ourselves. Like,
so it's like racism within our own.
We don't want to help. We don't want to help each other out, because like, you ain't about to get ahead of me. Oh hell no! I done taught you everything. I taught you. Remember this?
Yeah.
And we shouldn't. And we shouldn't do that. I mean, we should all be looking out for each other and help each other, so we can all, I mean, if we all put our little monies together and our communities would be lit.
Yeah. Alright, you guys, well, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave your comments below, join the conversation, let us know. And again, where can they find you at?
Instagram _ Mariah, MARI.
Here you go, spell it again.
H. That's 4 H's _.
Alright, guys, deuces.
Am I losing? wish you winning. It's my love and competition.